Hey, it's Maryanne with another episode of The Influential Nonprofit. If you don't know me, of course, I work with nonprofit leaders to master the art of influence so they can ask for and receive all they want, need, and deserve without feeling rejected, ineffective, or pushy. And today we're going to talk about conflict resolution, especially in the nonprofit space. This is a big one, y'all. This is a big one. Do you know how many people I meet in my travels? And I connect with a lot of people. I have the joy and privilege of connecting with nonprofit leaders, not just all over the country, all over the world. And I did this amazing workshop on in-person workshop last week. And a lot of the people say, like, I'm conflict averse, I'm conflict avoidant. That's how you may describe yourself. And I don't think anybody really wakes up and is like, let's get into some conflict today. We generally don't like it. Yet it's a part of our world every single day. And I have seen good organizations go bad, good programs fold, good development people leave, good board members resign because people did not know how to understand and navigate conflict. If you want to be an influential leader, if you want to show up with power, with purpose, navigating conflict is a skill that I highly encourage you to learn to master. And this is a practice, okay? Right? Like I always say, I'm not going to give you, the Olympics are coming. I'm not going to give you one gymnastics lesson and expect you to compete with Simone Biles. Conflict takes practice to navigate. And also, generally speaking, the closer people are to you, um, the how do I want to say it? I don't want to say it's harder, but maybe the more skill or practice it will take to navigate because those people can have so many triggers. So let's just not start out with like that mean person. Maybe we're going to start like a couple layers out of the bullseye and then come in as you start to learn to use these skills. But let's talk for a minute about why conflict is really tough to navigate, especially in the nonprofit space. And first of all, I think we come to the nonprofit space. We're helpers and we're fixers and we're solvers. And we generally want to put beautiful things into the world, which is a wonderful thing. And I did in the past, I did see conflict as a negative thing that you want to avoid because good people don't have conflicts. Nice people, kind people don't have conflict. And that sets up a really unrealistic expectation and also a devaluing of it, what is a very important and necessary tool in leadership and communication. We are people, we are fallible people, and there will be conflict. It's not if, it's when. And when you are prepared to navigate it, you will be a more effective leader. The second issue is different people have a different tolerance for conflict. So some people are really comfortable with it. My husband is a scientist. He has a very high conflict temperature because he doesn't see it as conflict. He sees it as a scientific debate. And so he will be in meetings and people will say, "Man, John, you were really like this." And he's like, "What are you talking about? I was just talking about the facts of an experiment." And also, I'm going to tell you, if he sees the data, he will fight for his position of what a data interpretation is. If you were watching this, I want to just share with you really quick. I'm wearing my St. Louis Cardinals Pride jersey because it's Pride Month. Well, maybe by the time you listen to this, it won't be Pride Month, but it is today. And I just love this because it's so cute. Anyway, so if you're wondering what was going on, that's my St. Louis Cardinals Pride jersey. Okay. And if you aren't, it's a really cute, if you're listening, it's the St. Louis Cardinals birds on the bat logo, which is the best logo in baseball, mind you. And it has all the it has all the flag LGBT flag colors going down. And this is like the trans colors of blue and pink going up here at the top. And I'm a mom of a trans kid, so that's always super meaningful to me. Okay, back at it. All right. So we're really well-intentioned people and we perceive conflict to be bad or something we have to avoid. Also, we may have wounds or really negative experiences from conflict in our past. And this is true for me in all transparency and vulnerability and honesty. My mom and when I was growing up, my mom was under a lot of pressure. Of course, I was a child. I didn't understand, what was going on in her life, but I was under a lot of pressure. She was under a lot of pressure. And, she would kind of like fly off the handle every once in a while and yell. And I was a later in life child. I would a lot of times be the only kid at home, and I would be the brunt of a lot of her frustrations. So I saw anger or conflict as bad and something to be avoided at all costs. And I also, in my life, realized that I wound up making friends who were often like my mother. They were really, really kind and fun until they weren't. And so I spent a lot of my time sort of tiptoeing around people, like making sure they feel calm, lest there be conflict, and then I get upset. Because, and this is kind of point 4 of why we don't like conflict, it triggers like these feelings of guilt and shame. It makes us feel uncomfortable. It can be difficult. So going back to my husband, different people have a different level of tolerance, right? So you could have a very low level of tolerance and someone could have a very high level of tolerance. And they're like, why? I don't understand. This isn't conflict. I'm just talking to you about something. And you just want to crawl up under your desk and die. You want your whole body is like fight or fight, flight, 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 get out, get out. And you can't remove yourself from the situation, but you're super, super uncomfortable. And so raising your temperature and being able to navigate conflict. And I'm not saying learning how to scream at people, because no one wants to be yelled at. That's not a productive way, right? No one wants to be yelled at. But then when you can raise your temperature because you understand conflict, you understand the role of it, you understand how to navigate it, you can handle more and more like drama, emotional situations, and not get so triggered by it. A lot of times I had a client say to me once a really, really long time ago, I was really hoping to avoid the drama. And we don't avoid the drama. And it's not drama. It's people having legitimate feelings. And in this case, this was about a board who had a chasm, right? There was a divide. I can't remember the specifics, but I do remember there was a divide among the board, and nothing was going to happen until that divide was healed. And he was saying, I was really hoping to avoid the drama. I said, no, we don't avoid it. We walk through it. We welcome it, because the way that we get to the other side of the conflict that is to step into it. You can't go around it. You can't go over it. You can't wish it away. Sometimes you just got to step in and deal with it. And so the more I can raise my emotional temperature, the more you can raise your emotional temperature, your conflict temperature, like an oven. You can navigate it to a higher setting, the better off you'll be. And it's really interesting because I realized in this journey of learning how to navigate conflict, one of the things that I do when the temperature gets too high is I make a joke. And in my family growing up, that was my role. I was the comic relief. So if something got weird or sticky, I would make a joke. And even now, that is a habit of mine. And I am conscious of it. And if I feel a joke coming on, I'm like, ooh, I understand what's happening. And I'm like, okay, I get what's happening, because I'm uncomfortable and I want to lower the temperature instead of sitting in the discomfort. And that is the biggest lesson, is understanding how to sit in the discomfort of something and just be in it and get through it. Because the more you can do that, again, this is a practice, the more you can do that, the more that you can get better at navigating conflict. And really now it just doesn't feel like conflict. It's just negotiation, right? We have so many loving, passionate people in our nonprofit space that, and I think our space is a little conflict avoidant just by the nature of it, but the loving, passionate people that we have, and conflicts can happen. Disagreements will happen. And the first thing is that's totally okay. because we're people. The point of conflict is to tell us that something's wrong. And I have been and worked with teams and groups where everyone would sit around the table and be like, yeah, that's great. Sure, sure, sure. Yes, yes, yes. And then they leave and they're like, oh my God, this is awful. This is totally going the wrong direction. And people are like, wait, what? But you said it was fine. They didn't know in the moment how to say what was really on their mind. And so I'm going to teach you really the role of conflict and then how to create space where you can navigate it and you can teach other people to navigate it as well. Because I'm telling you, this is a bigger issue. I mean, this is a big issue. And I would really love to hear from you, what kind of things you have conflict with. And maybe some of the ways like, and if you adapt some of these principles, how that served you. Okay, so first of all, let me blow your mind. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you, here's the role of conflict. Here's the what of this. What we want to do is shift our perception of conflict as bad. And this is Dr. Erin Wilkerson, one of my coaches, who's an amazing person, who's taught me so much, really, really guided me in the way around conflict management. So I want to credit him with the inspiration for all of this. If we put peace on a pedestal, all right, all we want is peace, peace, peace. We're going to sit around in the meeting and agree to everything. Oh, it's all good. What's going to happen is eventually, like a teeter-totter, the peace is going to come crashing down. And what comes flinging up? Conflict, right? So if we're constantly sacrificing peace or conflict for peace and putting peace on a pedestal as the thing we need the most, it will eventually crash down. And when it does, what does it do? It creates even more conflict. So if you've ever been avoiding a conflict and then, and the tension is building and building and building, an organization I worked with in the executive director, and there was a lot of discontent among the staff and a lot of mistrust, and they didn't know how to really say it. And then the tension was mounting and mounting and mounting, and all of a sudden, boom, it blew up because the executive director did not want to hear the conflict, right? And was putting the peace on a pedestal. So if you think about a teeter-totter, right? A seesaw, and you're just when your toes barely touch the ground, and that's that balance. Peace and conflict are a balance. And I would like to say most things, what we really want is a balance. That's what our world, our bodies, we're all looking to get into balance. Now, this is where I want you to hold on to your seats, okay? The more conflict I allow for, the more peace I'm creating because I'm creating that balance. So if I can allow for a little conflict, I can create peace. But the more I avoid conflict, the more I'm actually creating it. I know, but hold on with me. And this is really true for a lot of things. If you need a lot of control in your life, if and you need things and you're really dependent upon things working out a certain way, your day going a certain way, the timing of things going a certain way. And the more control you need, the more opportunities there are for that control to go off the rails. Because you are putting, control on that pedestal. And so it's so easily going to come crashing down. The more that it's a praise and criticism. Especially in my book, I talk a lot about the balance of praise and criticism. It's the price of doing business. People will praise you, people criticize you. But if I'm putting praise on a pedestal and I'm terrified of criticism, the first criticism that's leveled at me is going to crash down. And that praise, right? And boom, now I am in a ball under my desk because somebody criticized me and I didn't know how to handle it because I need praise so much. So whenever you sacrifice that, whenever you avoid the thing you don't want, you're actually, or whenever you, really are avoiding the thing you don't want, you're actually creating more of it. So if you value control, you're actually creating, and all you want is control, 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 because you hate chaos, you're creating chaos. If you're a person that kind of goes with the flow, chaos doesn't come into your life because you can roll with it. So thinking about that balance and that pedestal and the seesaw and the balance of those things. In this case, we're going to focus on, of course, conflict, right? And peace and conflict. But anytime we put peace on a pedestal, um, we are overvaluing it, and we are undermining conflict. Conflict is a real thing. It happens all the time. It happens every day. We can't avoid it. And if you're a person that says, I don't like conflict, I am conflict avoidant, I am afraid of conflict, I invite you right now to rephrase that, your self-talk, to say, there's a part of me that doesn't like conflict. There's a part, or sometimes, because if I just say, oh, I don't like conflict, and I label myself as conflict averse, there's no room for another reality to appear. It's like, I am not a people person. I am bad at math, like something like that. There's a part of me that doesn't like conflict. There's a part of me that, wants to please people. And, it's okay. We want to please people. Nobody really wants to fight. That's not what this is about. This is about understanding how to create that balance of a little bit of conflict brings me a little bit of peace. And when I have to go have a conversation, I remind myself, I'm creating peace. This conflict is creating peace, because because I can deal with the tiny amounts of conflict, but the more I avoid it, the worse it's gonna get. Now, listen, I am not perfect at this at all. This is a practice. But I have seen people leave relationships, leave jobs, move cities because they were avoiding conflict. I had somebody who cleaned my house for a long time, and this was during COVID, and she was a server at a place that I frequented. And she's like, oh, I'm cleaning houses now because everyone's at home, and she wasn't, the restaurants were closed. And she really wasn't very good, but she was the kindest person. Also, I think our house was just really hard to keep clean at the time because we were home all the time. And I had my 3 kids, and the kid I accidentally raised for 2 years, which is another story, and dogs. And anyway, I didn't know how to tell her. And I kept her on until we started this remodel. And I said, oh, well, it's going to be so dusty for the next 6 months. It's not really worth having cleaners. Because I couldn't tell her, I didn't have the words to say, it's just not working out for me. Um, I kind of stopped going to that place as much because I didn't know how to say it. So I'm human too. Sometimes we just don't know how to say things. And that's okay. We're going to talk about that today. So we understand that peace and conflict are just part of everyday living. I look at peace and conflict like the dentist. Okay. I do not like going to the dentist. I have a huge dental fear. Dentist is conflict to me, right? Peace is not going to the dentist. And in fact, I can't get any dental work besides cleaning done without being fully sedated, because I just can't. Anyway, so what I've decided, what the dentist and I do, is I get cleanings 3 times a year instead of 2, because then that way it helps me avoid more dental work. So I create a little more conflict and extra cleaning a year to create peace, right? To keep me out of the surgery chair. You see what I mean? So peace and conflict, teeter totter. It's a balance. Creating a little bit of conflict creates a little more peace. All right. So let's go into, understanding conflict and how to navigate it. I'm going to play something for you, and I want you to listen. Okay. And if you're watching this is a TikTok that now the original video has been deleted. I'm playing you a video that somebody is stitching and reacting to. It doesn't matter. I want you to just listen to what this person is saying, and then we're going to talk about it. And give me a second. I'm going to share my screen for you here and optimize the video so you can hear it right. So just give me 1 second to do that. And then I'm going to put her up here. All right, here we go.
Biggest fight we've ever gotten into, ever, over our toilet water. You tell me if I'm overreacting, because I really don't think I am. Okay, so here's what happened. Every single time I go out of town, my husband's incredible. I travel a lot for work. I come home. He's so great about cleaning the house, doing the laundry, keeping up with the kitchen. The house is always immaculate when I come home. Somehow this man got it into his head that, what would be really cool is if you put one of those giant blue hockey discs in the back of your toilet water so that every time you flush, the toilet comes out blue. The toilet water comes out blue. Like we live at a 7-Eleven or something. So I come home, I'm using, I go to the bathroom and I'm like, why is the water blue? And he's like, oh, I bought these things to put in the back of the toilet. I was like, what were you doing at the store? Looking at the aisle of all the things for cleaning items for the house where you thought that would be a good idea. Take me through that. He's like, you're making such a big deal. You're being so dramatic. I'm like, I am not being dramatic. So for a month, I'm flushing the toilet and it's still blue. And I'm complaining about it every day. I'm like, Nick, I can't live like this anymore. I cannot live with the blue toilet water. So literally, we're laying in bed the other night and I just go on TikTok, how do I empty the back of my toilet tank so I can, so that I can get rid of this blue water. I literally put in the search bar, how do I empty the back of a toilet tank? He gets up in a fury, oh my God, you're making such a big deal about this. When did you get so highfalutin? Blah, 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 blah. You've changed so much. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, changed so much. We live in a pretty nice neighborhood. It's 2024. What are you doing where you think this was a good idea? So that night, he emptied the toilet bowl somehow. I still don't know how to do it. And it's great. It looks good now in the main bathroom, but not the master.
This might surprise some of you, but I do think this is a big deal because that man is clearly not appreciated for anything more than toilet water.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there because then she's getting into, this person is getting into her opinion of that. All right, there's a little bit to unpack there. This is a conflict, right? This couple had a conflict. He made a decision about blue toilet water that she did not agree with. But she set it up for you, right? She told you he's amazing. She travels a lot and he handles things beautifully when she's out of town. Now, I'm telling you, I travel a lot. My husband's a pretty good partner. He's basically maintenance. Not a lot gets done, but he holds it down okay. But this is the guy who gets stuff done. And he seems like a really good partner. And now she's mad because of the blue toilet water, and he's mad, of course, because I think he's probably not feeling valued. So what's really going on here? Because I can tell you for sure, this is not about the blue toilet water. There is a concept called the 3 pains. It's the pain, and this is a classic, really well-known sales. I think, they do it in sales trainings. It's just a classic communication tool that I've learned along the way. The pain that you know and admit to. And that pain is usually something you can name, something you can name, i.e. blue toilet water, okay? Then there's the pain that you know but don't admit to. And then the pain that you know, don't admit to, and don't understand. So you don't even know it's there. So there's the pain that you don't, there's the pain that you know and admit to, the pain that you know and don't admit to, and the pain that you know, don't admit to, and aren't aware of, and someone else can see it. Other people, I can see it. As a coach, this is my world. People come to me with a pain that they can admit to, and there's the pain that they know and they can't admit to underneath it, but there's something even deeper that I can see. And this is such a great skill for you to learn because it allows you to get to the root of a problem, but we're going to do it carefully. Because first of all, I'm going to use the blue toilet water, but then I'm going to bring it into a nonprofit arena. It's not about the blue toilet water, because typically if it's something you can name, this person, this thing, that's not the problem. That's the problem you can admit to. The problem that you know and can't admit to is typically around you don't want to disappoint people, you don't want to let an organization down or whatever. She may be embarrassed about if somebody comes over, what are they going to think about her house if they have blue toilet water? And then the third thing is usually rooted in guilt or shame. Guilt being we feel bad for the things we do, shame being we feel bad for the things we are. Now, if you're going to ask me to unpack this situation, and this is a philosophy, this is a theory, I think she's feeling irrelevant. I think that she latched onto this thing as a way to gain some a foothold into what I think is, in this situation, she's feeling like what she does doesn't matter, or she's not contributing, or maybe he could just go on without her. He doesn't need her. Because for as much as it's wonderful that this person is such a supportive partner and really keeps a great house and keeps the household moving when she travels, that could be triggering feelings of guilt or shame for her. Guilt of that she's not doing enough, or shame that, maybe she's just not enough for him. And now, because I know for sure it's not about the blue toilet water. And as long as we keep arguing about the blue toilet water, which is what everyone was doing in the comments, they were saying, oh, you can just flush it out, or you're being ridiculous, or, blah, blah, blah. It's not about that. It is never, not never. I want to say never. Most of the time, the presenting problem is not the actual problem. It's the problem they know and can admit to. And she wound up deleting that video because it went super, super viral. It's a great, but I appreciate her sharing that, because it's a great lesson for us. It's not about the blue toilet water. Okay. But what it is about, well, that's what our conflict negotiation and management skills will help us create. Very typical scenario. You're bored. If we just had a brochure, we could fundraise. Okay. And then, a well-intentioned ED, they go and they make up the brochure. If we had talking points, we could fundraise. Go make them talking points. And nothing happens. Why doesn't anything happen? Because the brochure wasn't the problem. That was the problem they could know and admit to. The problem they know and couldn't admit to is they were scared of screwing up. Because if I would say, oh, that's really great, what would you want that brochure to do for you? What would you want that brochure to tell you or to do? Well, so that I could say the right things. So what is really going on is they are afraid of screwing up, because disappointing the organization, because that would trigger feelings of inadequacy, which again triggers guilt and shame. And we will do anything in our power to avoid guilt and shame. It's the thing too, it's the lowest vibe we have and the things we want to avoid the most. You're with me, right? Okay. So it's the problem you know and admit to, the problem you know and don't admit to, the problem you don't know, don't admit to, but someone else can see. Here's the thing. We have to be careful with this, because if there's a problem that you can see, the other person can't, when you tell them that, it's very threatening. That's called a blind spot. No one wants to be called out on their blind spots. It's hard sometimes to see the label of the jar that you're in. And sometimes it's another perspective that can help you. Yet how that other perspective is shared is going to say a lot about whether that person will receive that wisdom or not. 100%. Okay. So our job is not to tell people what their blind spot is. Our job is to ask the questions so that people can reveal their own conclusion for themselves. And the way you do that is not to either the 3Ds, deflect, deny, dismiss a complaint or a problem. It's to step into it. Oh my gosh, tell me more about the blue toilet water. What upsets you about that? Well, people are like, she said, we don't live in a 7-Eleven. There's something going on under there. Okay. And I think that for me was the biggest thing. I think it's what other people might think, which is why she went on and shared the video, because she wanted validation for this, because I think she's really cares about what other people might think. Now, if you look at it from his point of view, he's like, and he's feeling like, why is she harping on this? And I don't understand, because he doesn't know that it's not about the blue toilet water. So again, as long as we're talking about the brochure or the blue toilet water or the talking points or whatever it is, we're missing out on what's actually going on. And what extends conflict is when people don't really understand what that is, because that brochure or that toilet water is a symbol of something, a deeper problem. And this is the biggest skill. If you could take one thing away from this podcast, from this video today, is that the presenting problem is hardly ever the actual problem. There's something else going on deeper. And as long as we're talking surface level, the conflict will continue. And that our job is not to reveal blind spots to someone. Our job is to ask them the questions so that they can get to the answers. I'm going to give you, for instance, that happened to me. I was working with a board. I'm training a board on fundraising. And somebody said, will you give us a report at the end that sort of tells us what to do? Like, here's your recommendations. Here's your report. And first of all, this is so no and no, like no. And I'm gonna tell him why, but it's people are gonna ask for stuff like that, because they want to know that they're investing in something tangible and they want to know there's going to be some kind of outcome, right? The question is fine. I think 90% of people would have just written a report because somebody of recommendations, because somebody wanted them to. Like, the thought of writing a report makes me want to crawl up under my desk and cry, because that's not what I do. But I knew that report had significance. So instead of saying, no, that's wrong, that's not what you want, I say, tell me a little bit more about what you want this report to do. And he said, well, I want it, because we really want to make good decisions, and we want to, use your expertise and have a plan for moving forward. And I said, okay, so what I'm hearing is what really was really important to you is to have some good direction and a plan moving forward. And that's what would make this relationship successful. Yes. I said, okay, I'm so glad you shared that. I would like to share from my point of view what I think is going to serve you the best. This is just in my experience of doing this over and over again. It's not me telling you what to do, but giving you a process so that you as a board can make your own choices about what you see works best for your organization. I certainly have the process and the expertise, but we make those decisions together, because when you decide as well, you're more likely to actually implement the changes. And he was like, oh, okay. I said, but I'm also hearing that having something in writing would be valuable to you. And he said, yes. And so somebody else said, the ED or whatever, she said, oh, we've got an intern and she's really good at note taking. She took this class. I said, that would be great. So why don't we have, we'll have a working document. So as we have these meetings, so at the end, you'll have sort of a wrap up and a report, and we'll just create it together organically as we go through. And you'll have your recommendations that we both agree to together. Right? So how is this a win? And remember to talk about the influential third of the secret option C. This is how everybody wins. Okay. I didn't have to write a report. And also they didn't have because the expectation was I was going to tell them what to do. And that's not how I work. And so, but instead of saying, oh no, I'm not going to do that, or just doing it because it's what they wanted, because I knew it wasn't about the report. There was something else going on in the report. And again, I think the biggest thing is they were investing money in me. He was the finance person, and he wanted to make, and for him to invest in something or agree to invest in something and not be, a good product or a good result would trigger feelings of guilt and shame. Right. So you can see how I knew it wasn't the report, right? It wasn't the report. So when a staff member comes to you with a problem, that person did this, or, this person said this, it's, you're like, okay, that is the beginning of the issue, not the end. All right. Okay. So, and also, I didn't reveal his blind spot to him saying, oh, so you're afraid of making a mistake. Like, wait, what? No, I didn't say that. It's like if you would sit down to therapy and you talk to your therapist, like, oh, you're an addict. Like, wait, what? I just got here. Our goal as leaders is not to tell people what we see, but to ask the questions and guide them to their own conclusions, because that's what sticks, right? That's what sticks. And here's the thing, you're only going to get people as far as they're going to go. If you're entrenched in blue toilet water, that just may be where you're at. But you know, as a leader, that that's not really what it's about. And maybe when they're ready to go deeper, you can help them with that. Okay. I got a couple more points. The next point is release the outcome. And I talk about release the outcome all the time, especially in fundraising conversations, but this is also, well, if you are insistent on getting your point across, the more you want to change somebody's mind, the more they will stay entrenched in the opinion that they have. Oh, and when you, so when I release the outcome, say, I don't need to make you see something my way. No, I worked with a person who took my course, and he was working with a committee, and there was, he had big, bold visions, and they were really like, we're not really ready for that. And there was a conflict, right? And he's like, why can't you see this? What's going on? And they're like, why can't you just dial it back a little? And there was a conflict. And so the more that he wanted this, the more they're going to push back. And so one of the best things that you can do in conflict negotiation and management is to say, if this is for you, great. If not, that's okay too. Or, however you decide is fine. The more decision-making power I give someone else, the more likely they are to decide what I want. The more I push something on someone, the more likely they are going to stay entrenched in their own opinion. I have a friend, and we have very differing points of view on things sometimes, and I will listen to his point of view. But I would say when it steps into when you're trying to convince me or tell me I'm wrong, that I don't see it the way you do, we pause. I'm happy to hear your opinion. That is not a problem. But when you're trying to convince me that who I am or what I believe is wrong, that's when it's going to fall apart. So it's about like releasing that. Hey, I'm just going to share what I feel from my perspective. And if it resonates with you, great. If not, that's okay too. Right. So they get to choose. And the more likely they are, because I released the outcome. And I know that's hard because you're like, but I really need this person to see this. And they will when you stop trying to push it on them so much. At my old job at 501 Creative, I was the fixer. I did a lot of conflict resolution. We didn't have a lot of screw ups. Very, very infrequently I did this. And there was a couple reasons I did this. One, there was a lot of things that I was around, but I wasn't like really part of the project. So I could have like I wasn't in the trenches with with my coworkers who were working with these people, and maybe it kind of had enough. The other thing is I could just do this. I can make stuff go away. And how I made it go away is I wasn't tied to the outcome. I just wanted to hear what people had to say, see what I could do. The other thing is, and this is the next point, is there's empathy. So we lead with empathy. And empathy is a skill. And in my Uplevel Your Influence course, we go deep, deep, deep into empathy and how to use it, how to practice it, how to build that empathy muscle, because that's so, so, so important. We're really good at sympathy, not so good at empathy. I just think across the board, without practice, without intentionally honing our sympathetic skills, we're just not that good at it. That's okay, because you can get really good at it. But sympathy is meaning like, I'm at the top of the hole and you're in the hole. And I said, that hole's really dark. Get out of here. But empathy is, let me get in the hole with you. Wow, it's really dark down here. This kind of sucks. Empathy is holding people in their suffering without trying to fix it or solve it, which is great. You don't have to fix or solve anything. In empathy, I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to like it. I don't have to understand it. All I have to do is see it from your perspective. But empathy goes a long, long way to helping resolve a conflict. I'll give you a quick empathetic story. Children's Foundation, and a big donor, he donated to the heart fund, but his thank you letter said, thank you for donating to the lung fund. And the donor was upset because, and I think I'm pretty sure this is how it ran down, but whatever it was, he got misattributed. And he was like, let's say he's a really, really big donor to this heart effort, the heart fund, right? and, the heart transplant fund. And that was his thing. And it got attributed to the lung thing. And he was really upset. And he could have called and said, I'm really upset. And you could have said, oh, it was just a technical glitch, blah, blah, blah. Do you think that's empathetic? No, no. Like, what did that's denying, dismissing, deflecting. Oh my gosh, tell me what were you thinking when you opened that letter? Well, I was thinking, I give you all this money and I'm so involved in this, on the heart fund. How could you ever attribute me to this other thing? It just, yeah, I'm sure you probably weren't feeling very valued in that moment, were you? Yes. Thank you. You're right. Yes. I just felt like you guys didn't really know me or understand me. And I thought we had such a great relationship. It really made me question things like, wow, yeah, I can see how reading that might have really upset you. And yeah, do these people even know me? Yes, that's it. Oh my gosh. Thank you. I'm so glad you called and shared this with me because this was probably just a technical glitch on our error, but I know it came across to you as something completely different. Now, do you see how that person, if I would have said, oh, it was just a technical glitch, I'll fix it. It wasn't about the heart fund. Okay. He knows that in his conscious brain that it was probably something. It's how it made him feel. And maybe there's something in him that needs a lot of validation, or just like was feeling left out or left behind, and it triggered something in him and he got upset about it. Here's the thing. Weird stuff happens to us all day, all the time. People do stuff and it just floats over us, but the stuff that like, you got the heart thing wrong. But that's there's something deeper going on that has a deeper wound involved. And really, and I know this is getting, just hold on when I say this, we're all just kind of wounded kids. And until we consciously understand those wounds and understand like how we think and feel and why we're reacting to, to things a certain way, and what can we do the next time to react more productively, we're going to keep doing this over and over again. So empathy. If you want to be a master in empathy, because I'm going to tell you, people will buy, and I say this all the time, people will buy to the level they feel seen and heard. So remember, my only job is to listen and empathize and validate. Because once people feel seen and heard, they relax. And when they relax, they trust what you have to say. And the conflict goes, it's like, oh, yes, thank you. That is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, I'll get it. I had a thing with my son the other day. He yells a lot. When he gets angry, he yells. And I'm on my own journey with conflict. And I got mad at him. I walked away and I shut the door. I said, no, you don't get to shut the door. You don't get to shut the door. Da, 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 da. And he was going on and on. And if I could, but what he was telling me is that sometimes he doesn't feel heard unless he's yelling, that we don't really pay attention to him unless he's throwing a fit. And I could have said, that's not how you do it. I said, okay, so I understand. He goes, no, you don't understand. I said, okay, let me just say this. And if I get it, I get it. If not, I'm going to listen till I get it. And I said, so you feel like, you have to yell in order for people to, for you to be heard or for us to pay attention. Yes, that's what I feel like. Okay. And that you try to communicate with us in a calmer way, but we're just not connecting to you. And so you amp up the emotion to really capture our attention. He's like, yes. Okay. So I do understand. Yes. Yes. Okay. Do you see what I did? I kept going back in until I validated what he was saying. Do I agree with it? No. Do I like it? No. Does it matter? No. Because once he did that and he goes, yes, thank God. I said, okay, can I share with you from my perspective how I encountered this? And he was open to my perspective. And this dialogue wound up being incredibly productive. So people buy to the level they feel seen and heard. If you really want to reduce conflict, stop trying to push your opinion on anyone. And this is exactly my fundraising conversations, right? We don't pitch, we don't sell, we convince, we listen, we empathize, we validate, And once people feel seen and heard, then there's going to be trust, and then they're going to be more open to what we have to say. And that's what I did at my old job. When stuff would go wrong, I would call up the client and be like, hey, tell me what happened. Like, oh my God, that must have been so frustrating for you. Because really what they wanted was just to feel validated for having this problem. They knew we could fix it. They knew they got their feelings hurt. They felt we disappointed them, and we're going to disappoint people. We're going to screw up, and it's okay, and because we're human beings. So let me just recap really quick. All right. We assume conflict is bad when conflict is a natural part of everyday communication. And the better you can get at, the better off you're going to be. Remember, peace and conflict are a balance. If we put peace on a pedestal, we're actually creating more conflict. So by having these moments of conflict, like with the board, with the potential client that I told you about, or with my kid, or with a board member, a team member, whoever it is, or a donor, that we're actually creating peace. We don't call people's blind spots out on them when we see them, but we can understand them and then work with them to get them as close as they can to revealing something about themselves when they're ready to receive it. We're going to release the outcome. I don't pitch or sell or convince, right? I'm the less likely I want something from you, the more likely I will to have it. I lead with empathy, which is rooted in listening, right? And I don't have to like it. I don't have to understand it. I just have to empathize with it and validate it. And remember that people buy to the level they feel seen and heard. And the more that you can put your own agenda, your own thing aside, and just tap into what somebody else is at, the quicker you will relieve this conflict. And it is a beautiful thing to witness when somebody goes, oh my God, you get it. Yes, thank you. To see their relief, to see their posture change, to see, oh, yes, thank you. That's when you know you're doing your job as an influential leader. That's when you can say, okay, now we're getting somewhere. And the more that you try to avoid it or deflect, dismiss, deny, the 3Ds, the more conflict you will create. All right, that was our journey into conflict resolution and management today. I would love, love, love to hear your thoughts on this, or tell me, you can email me, Maryanne@courageouscommunication.com, or please let me know. I'm on LinkedIn, and again, you can always connect with me. This is my life's work. This is what I teach and train people to do, to be more effective leaders and fundraisers, so you can get more done. You can be more productive and have less, cleanup conversations, less side conversations. If you're sitting here going, man, I'm so tired of people dumping all their crap on me, or I'm so tired of having to spend half my day navigating everyone's crap, I can teach you a better way, and we'll work together, and you will become a more effective leader. And if there's a link in the show notes, feel free to book a call with me and we'll talk about it. And that's it for this episode of The Influential Nonprofit. I will see you next time.